All right, I'm gonna work this out. I think, oh yeah, I gotta fork it. Because since I own it, I'm able to totally do the assignment for you. But instead of that, I forked it. All right, so we're gonna be adding a student ID to the student class. So this is a student class we used on day 42. And to do this, you need a static variable, which is not the student ID, private static int. I'm going to call it next num. This will be the next number. And I told you I wanted it to start at 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to have a student ID. So private int student ID. All right, so this is the second one I wrote is the one that's going to be each object's student ID. And this one that's a static one is owned by the class itself, and it keeps track of what the next ID number ought to be. Okay, so then in here, what we do is we say student ID equals next num, and then we increment next num up by 1 so that people will get different student ID numbers. So when you create a new student, it comes in here and it uses next num. The first person will be 1,234. And then behind the scenes, we change next num so that for the next student, it'll be the next number. And then the way to see this is we have to go over here and print it out. That's all we have to do. We'll see. And we already had tests that created 3 students. And what I asked you to check here is that Chaz had ID 1234, and Chuck 1235, and Charlie 1236. But then when we print Chaz again, it's an important thing to make sure that Chaz is still 1234, because if you programmed this wrong, you would everyone would just have the most recent ID, which would be a problem because we want them to have unique IDs. So that's it. I think run the test, make sure Chaz has, yeah. So you didn't have to make any additional tests for this. So to show you the top matter, we added these 2 lines, and then we added these 2 lines, and then down below we added ID and student ID, and I put a space before the word ID, before the letters ID, so that it wasn't jammed into the name. There you go.